I had a fight at the Phi Phi Island Reggae Bar in Thailand. This is one of the most craziest, reckless places to step into a boxing ring. It's renowned for its chaotic knockouts, and it's a place where drunk tourists become warriors for the night, throwing punches for nothing but pride and a free bucket of alcohol. It's an absolute madness, but I had to be a part of it. But I haven't had a fight in 6 months, and the last time I had a chance to fight here, I didn't. But why? Well, let me explain. My last boxing match was 6 months ago. This was my 5th fight ever and my first away title fight in Newcastle against a fighter who was 6-0. I was on a 3-fight win streak and decided to take this fight as a challenge, but I went into the fight with barely 3 hours of sleep. It's a bit of a long story, so watch the video if you haven't already. That fight was an absolute war, and it was very, very close. I lost, which was a huge learning curve, but I took multiple shots to the back of the head, which left me with concussion for about a week. This hit me hard. I was slurring my words, I was finding it hard to edit and concentrate, and honestly, it scared the shit out of me. For the first time ever in boxing, I experienced my first bit of damage. I like to think I'm quite smart, but when all my abilities are stripped away from me, this made me rethink everything. I really didn't want brain damage to become my reality. I was already planning to travel to Thailand in November, but I decided to switch my content to these no money challenges. Running around in Ibiza with my mate Abbo and no money. We were having fun, like we were drinking peavers and just messing about. But deep down, I was making this content to try and escape fighting and tried to escape the reality that I'm actually damaging my brain. But this is when I realised fighting's in my blood. It's been a part of me ever since I first stepped into that boxing gym. The pain and the discomfort is what makes martial arts so addictive. My dream as a kid was always to become a YouTuber.
Oh, yes! Yes!
I ended up taking up boxing because I believed it would be good for my discipline and helping me grow to become a better person. I never thought it would become my full career path. Over these last few months, I've tried my best to push my content to more fun, degenerate type content. But the truth is, once you've had a fight, the feeling never leaves you. It sticks with you forever. And I was uncomfortable trying to avoid fighting. And honestly, the anger was building up and I felt lost. I was missing fighting and training. I love fighting. I absolutely love it. It's the most rewarding thing in my life, but it's also the most painful thing. And that's why people want to watch it and why it pays. But I love that mix of fear and adrenaline. I honestly recommend training at least some sort of martial arts, as the character development you'll go through is amazing. But yeah, I've got to face the fact that the hard truth is, it's slowly killing my brain. But in this life, I have a choice where I can either make these fun, easy challenge videos that aren't that fulfilling, or I can choose the harder, more uncomfortable path that's gonna build me. But what I've learned recently is the more you delve into your fear, pain and comfortability, that's where the rewards are hiding. So that brings me on to the Reggae Bar. I hadn't fought in 6 months, so it wouldn't be wise to take a fight against a trained fighter. And my 2 months visa in Bali was running out, forcing a visa run. My friend Crumpet suggested we go to Phi Phi Islands as one final send-off before he was returning to the UK. And that's when it clicked. I could fight at the Reggae Bar, face my fear, whilst creating this video that's bound to blow up. Honestly, this fight was a no-brainer. But what I didn't expect was, well, you'll see in the fight. Anyway, it was time to leave Bali, pack my bags and set off for a grueling 48 hours of planes, buses, boats, before finally arriving in Phi Phi Islands. This place was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen on earth. Blazing sun, crystal clear waters, women, partying and drinking. This was literally heaven on earth. But I was here for one reason and one reason only. I spent most of my day just swimming, sunbathing and building sandcastles on the beach. All day I couldn't shake this nervous, anxious feeling. So I was doing anything to distract myself. It's only right I have a couple peavers before my fight because it's a fun one today. It's a fun one getting back in there. But I'm gonna have a little pint and see how it goes, man. Fifi bars, let's go. Cheers.
Shank.
Eventually, night fell. We made our way to the Reggae Bar. Even though most of these fighters hadn't trained a day in their life, I was still nervous as this was pretty much unranked matchmaking. I could literally be fighting anyone, from someone who's never trained to Mike Tyson. But that was the fun of it. After sitting around, watching a few fights, having some beers, it was time to pull the trigger. I walked down to the part where you sign up for a fight, and instantly this lad came over to me. My opportunity was right in front of me and I wasn't going to say no. So I downed another Corona to level the playing field. Before the fight, me and my opponent were bantering and chatting. I also gave him some tips too. So another thing that made this video possible and also helped solidify the direction of me and my channel is X-Martial. The gear you wear as a fighter isn't just about functionality. It's like your avatar in a video game. Why blend in when you can stand out with both skills and style? X-Martial has some of the craziest fight gear designs I've ever seen. From this cool MMA nurse set to these wild SpongeBob Muay Thai shorts, and the quality is unmatched. I've saved you some time by dropping a link in the description where you can get 2 mystery MMA shorts for the price of 1. Just pick the size and we'll bring the surprise. Use code DANCUTTLE for 15% off. Finally, after all the anticipation and nerves, it was finally time for the fight. I walked into the ring and got my gloves on, but the first thing I noticed was how heavy these gloves were. They must have been about 18 ounce, which wasn't ideal, but I guess they got to keep the fighters safe. The guy offered me a head guard, but I refused. I know I've mentioned a lot about brain damage, but in this fight, I think it would get in the way more than it would help. This wasn't my proudest first round. My reaction speed seemed a lot slower than usual, and that's obviously because of the alcohol. I thought the alcohol would help increase aggression, but if anything, it just made me a sloppier fighter. Fighting with beginners is always going to be unpredictable. He was grabbing me, throwing wild shots, and we were brawling, not boxing. And if I wanted to win this, I needed to box. I also tried some southpaw, which I'd been training for the last 21 days. Go check out that video if you haven't already. But I got caught quite bad as soon as I went into it, so I obviously haven't been training hard enough. Anyway, on to my next round. Fair play to my opponent, he definitely surprised me for a beginner. Round 2 started explosively. This guy was really giving it me, so I just decided fuck it and I started brawling with him. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't a proper boxing match. It was more of a fun fight. So I may as well give the crowd what they wanted. I couldn't stand the grabbing, hooking and like the inside fighting. Inside fighting's literally my kryptonite and something I need to work on. On to the final round. I'd been taking it too easy and I couldn't let this beginner win in front of all these people. Time to step up my game. And I'd like to say this wasn't my best performance, but I made sure to respect my opponent. Hopefully it brings him to the sport of boxing. But I remember the time as a kid where I used to watch fight movies and play UFC 3, and now I'm the one creating those movies. Run towards your fears, because that's where the real treasures are hiding.